Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Unconventional Therapist Guide to Nothing. I'm Dave, and I'm joined here with my co host. His name is Greg. He wears a hat and he's got a mustache. What's up, Greg?
Oh, dude, and I kind of have not quite, but like a neck tattoo a little bit.
Wait, you just got a neck tattoo?
Like a horseshoe, a tiny little thing behind my ear.
When did you get that?
Just the other night on a whim.
What?
Yeah, we were going by and
Who's we?
it's Natasha and I, and she's like, "Hey,
Really?
do you want to get a little matching tattoo?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then the tattoo guy was like, "Where do you want it?" And I was like, "Just put it up right here." And just like that, boom.
Really? You both got the same thing?
She didn't get it there. She got it in a more appropriate part where no one can see. So,
And you got
but you know
yours
what?
behind your ear.
Behind my ear. You'll
I see.
see.
I do see that as becoming like a very popular thing. A lot of female actresses have been getting like right behind the ears.
Yeah. So it's a female thing, huh? It could be. It could be.
I'm just messing.
No, but honestly, because it's
Did you like
I've only
start to
seen it
think about
on
it later?
no, I've only seen it on women like that too.
Really?
I've
No,
always found.
I swear to God, I have seen it on men
Oh,
behind the
okay, good.
ears.
All right, good. Well, good to
Like
know.
more lower towards like, on the neck more, but
Yeah,
region the region is
similar, right? Around the same area. So, hey, look, that's could be looked at as a ritual in our culture. And Dave, I was thinking a lot about this because, like you said, like this difficult trying to find an angle for this episode.
yeah.
But I was thinking about the importance of ritual in human development and rites of passage and all this stuff that's kind of like outside of our, it's kind of gone to the wayside. And I think that when travelers or people who used to step into new communities, what they would find is everyone had rituals set up. And we respect these rituals and we take part in them as if to say, hey, look, we're going to respect your values, we're going to respect your way of life, and we are a safe person to kind of be around. And it's, I think that like nowadays when we see someone who's completely acting outside of our rituals, which if you really think about, we do have some rituals. We have we celebrate the holidays, we celebrate our birthdays, we do the Pledge of Allegiance sometimes, right? The national anthem. We have all these kinds of little rituals that we take part in. And when someone doesn't, there feels like there's some kind of controversy there.
Yes.
And I'll give you an example. My old friend from kindergarten, Kenny Gilmain, good guy, he gave me permission to talk about this a little bit because I reached out to him because this is one of the people that I've known who are part of this religion, and
Oh,
Selena Karamichiu. So I still remember them, and I still remember their names very well they're because the way that they presented themselves in school, like they had to step out of the room when there was the Pledge of Allegiance. They didn't get to talk about the birthdays. When it was Christmas time, they couldn't cut out little snowflakes. They couldn't do any of these things. And it kind of took us all off guard a little bit. And that must give you some hint as to what I'm kind of talking about right now,
yeah.
right?
Did
Right.
you so what did you say to Kenny and Selena Karamichimu
You mean like right now or back then?
when you asked them permission to talk about this?
I just said like, hey, look, we're talking, and this is interesting. Like, hey, we're going to be talking about this part of maybe your religion and everything like that.
Yeah.
And I remember, and I'll just speak towards Kenny. He's like,
You
yeah,
don't want to
that's not
speak towards Selena Karamichimu?
no, because I only got permission, but I don't know her story. But I know that Kenny is not involved anymore,
Oh, he's
and
like many others, he has stepped away.
he has stepped away because he found that the Jehovah's Witness, um, that it allow for him to be himself.
Okay.
And he didn't agree with the way things like how they like homosexuality, certain things like he found um like it violated his values in a lot of ways, and it was like
So
really close-minded.
so Kenny is a former member and
Former
Selena Karamichimu is unknown.
unknown. Yeah,
Unbeknownst to us,
that's right.
would you
We are
say?
unsure, but we will keep digging.
We will find the true story to
Yeah.
Selena
Yeah.
Karamichimu.
Yes, we will.
I don't know
Absolutely.
why you chose to use her full name.
It's a good name.
I just like it so
It
much,
is a good
though.
name.
I could say that all day.
So before we even get into this, like I would just be curious as because for me it was very limited, but what's your understanding? Like, what comes to mind when someone would say, I'm a Jehovah's Witness?
I have two early like childhood memories that had no context to them, gave
Mhm.
me no understanding of who these individuals are, but they were my introduction to Jehovah's Witness. And I think one of them is probably the same introduction that everybody has had. And it was a very it was very interesting at the time. I think it's probably still somewhat this way, maybe not. But one of those is obviously somebody came to the door and you hear your parents say, "Oh, it's a Jehovah's Witness."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And we would hide
Yes, that's
so
right.
we wouldn't have to open the door. And if you're not like, obviously if you're a Jehovah's Witness, you're not hiding, but if you're not, there was like a, yeah, I don't know, some sort of stigma, but yeah, it was kind of like we don't want to open the door. And I just assumed it was because they were like some sort of salesperson of sorts, but
Yeah, you
just
know
for
what? They
something.
are in a sense, and
Yeah,
that's what makes people uncomfortable sometimes. Like when you're buying a car and the car person just won't let it go. Like sometimes it's a little unsettling. It's even if
sure.
it feels like if you say to like I've had people come to the door and I've said like, okay, yeah, no, I'm good though, and they'll just kind of keep going a bit, and you're like, I'm good.
As a kid, though, when you have no idea who these people are and you don't know what a Jehovah's Witness is, it's a tad bit scary
It is.
because you have no idea what their intention is.
Mhm.
I don't know what they're trying to get us to do or what they're going to say if we don't want it. So I'm like hiding under things. I'm like hiding under the table
Yeah.
so that they're not going to see my shadow or
Right.
something like
Yeah.
that. It was like I have to do everything in my power not to let these people know that we're home. We have to pretend that we're not home.
You
And the
got to
other one
rope
was
you in.
a random movie had a mention of
Hmm.
Jehovah's Witness, and then I don't know. In my head, I always associated it with something like Amish or Mormon, but I didn't really
Mhm.
know Mormon as a kid. I was probably more familiar with Amish from that movie, The Witness, I think it was
That's so
Harrison
interesting.
Ford.
Yes.
But this movie
So
was a perfect world, I think, with Kevin Costner. He kidnaps a kid. I think Clint Eastwood's in it too. He kidnaps a kid, and the kid's family is Jehovah's Witness.
interesting.
And that's I didn't again doesn't give any context to it. I
Yeah,
still
no, but
didn't
that's your
understand
tie
it,
to it,
but that's
which
it.
is like this like vague sort of like what is this kind of thing?
Yeah,
And honestly, like the origin of it, it's not it surprised me. So,
and it's old,
well, so how like see that's the thing. I
but
was like it's
not super old.
old, but not that old, right?
Right,
As far as
right.
like
I guess
religions go.
would you say it's older than you expected it to be?
No. I would say it's much newer than I expected.
Okay.
Because think about it, like, so, well, the roots are in the Bible study movement, like people going to each other's houses, kind of doing that. And you'll talk a little bit more about him, but this Charles Taze Russell creates this publication called Zion's Watchtower. And he does this for a while. And in 1931, they adopted the title Jehovah's Witnesses. And they take that title because it's God's true name. So they were practicing this a while ago, but it wasn't really an official thing until 1931, and you think that you felt like that was old?
I assumed it was something from the 1900s.
Yeah.
Well, like later than nine. Well, he actually like I guess the part that was old to me is like he started a lot of this movement in the
The
1870s. So
1800s.
to
Yeah.
me, I was like, oh wow, that's way earlier than I expected.
Even that.
But I do get what you're saying because
Yeah.
obviously most religions are significantly earlier than that. But I
But
just
no, but now
assumed it
I
was more
sort of
new
get what you're
age.
saying now too, where it's like well, because sometimes people look at this and I don't want to be insulting at all, but sometimes people look at it in the lens of a cult. And
Yeah,
cults, they rise up and they burn out like fairly quickly. So this has
yeah.
been around for a little while.
It's driving me crazy in my camera for some reason. Like part of my head keeps getting cut off, and it's really bothering me. So just wanted to say that for people that
Okay.
are wondering
I'm not
why I'm
noticing
making
that.
weird faces at the camera because the side of my face keeps disappearing halfway as I'm talking.
That's mostly hard to deal with.
So yeah, yeah. All right. Charles Taze Russell, aka Charles the Taser Russell,
Oh,
as his
he was a
friends
former
would call him,
wrestler. Yeah.
as his friends called him. Yeah, he was born in 1852. He started this Bible study movement in the 1870s in his hometown of Pittsburgh, PA.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, PA, Pennsylvania. A lot of stuff comes out of Pennsylvania, right?
Brotherly love.
Yep.
Steel.
Lancaster, Pennsylvania. You got the Amish, just a
Hmm.
few hours away from Pittsburgh. So yeah, I don't a very appropriate place for me
I think so.
in my thinking for it to begin. But he so when he starts this movement, it's kind of this offshoot of some other preachings at the time. And in his preachings, in his development, one of the first things like he starts to differentiate here is he rejects this idea that hell is a place of eternal torment. And he also adopts this thing that, you're going to go more into this, but a non-trinitarian theology that denied the divinity of Jesus.
Yeah,
So
which is
those are
messed up
some
for
of
a
the
lot of people.
yeah, those are some of the principal like core beliefs, I guess you would say, of this religion. And he also interprets the second coming in accordance with like literal translation of the original Greek term, and it's parousia, which is present, means presence, suggesting that Christ is going to come as like this invisible presence, and
Yeah.
that it actually already occurred in 1874. And then the coming of Christ's invisible presence signals the end of the current order of society, and that it would be followed by this visible presence and establishment of a millennial kingdom on earth in 1914, which you're going to talk about a little bit later. So that's
Yeah.
all kind of convoluted until we get more into like the facts. But what I'm kind of hinting at here is this like establishment of he's basically talking about end times.
Yeah. And that'll get your attention.
Yeah, yeah. And I thought that was interesting too for somebody to be talking about end times and like Armageddon. I don't know. For me, this all kind of blew my mind that this was happening in like starting in like the 1870s, I guess. Um, so in 1879, as you mentioned, he published this magazine, The Zion's Watchtower and Herald of Christ's Presence, which eventually becomes the Jehovah Witness's like main publication, The Watchtower. And prior to the name that we know now, in the early 1880s, Russell established Zion's Watchtower Tract Society. So that's what it was prior to becoming the Jehovah's Witness. In 1909, the headquarters moves from Pittsburgh to Brooklyn, where it has remained until I think 2017 when it moved to Warwick, New York, up in like the Catskills area, I believe.
Yeah, must be doing pretty good.
Yeah. Russell is then succeeded by a lawyer named Joseph Franklin Rutherford. That was a tough one for me. And he became the second president of the Watchtower Society, and he's the one who actually coins the name the Jehovah's Witnesses. He's also the one who ends up introducing many of like the distinct features that we see today, such as like the you know going house to house, preaching, the not participating in politics and military service, and not celebrating Christmas. In 1942, Rutherford is succeeded by Nathan Homer Knorr, who begins training program for office bearers that won the movement for more converts. And he oversees a publication called the New World Translation of the Holy Scriptures, which is their like a modern English Bible. And this is the Bible that they use today, primarily in as of like the 2013 revision.
Yeah, it's interesting that, another kind of strange thing, or I don't know, what makes a religion kind of controversial sometimes is when they add like an additional text
Yeah.
that's like newly written.
Yep.
And, if you're not like if you're in on it, it's almost like a living document that the people in charge can kind of make amendments to keep power. Like for example, when you just mentioned, all right, we're not gonna run for office. We're not gonna celebrate Christmas. It's almost like you can see the makings of isolation, like in a sense, right? It's like
Mm.
we're separate from the rest of
Yeah.
society in
There's
a sense.
no static or just things that like stay in place when things can constantly be revised and
Hmm.
you're always making it up to date. So yeah, you can make it fit whatever your agenda is at that time. And then also you can make it pretty much fit any societal climate, right? Because
Yeah,
you can add
yeah.
revisions. If there's new trains of thought, if there's new ways of thinking, you can be like, oh, well, it's right here in this new revision. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and also like and like only certain people have access to like creating that stuff, which is interesting too. So let's talk about that a little bit, like this leadership structure.
Sure.
They hold all the cards. Very interesting, very kind of scary in a sense.
Yeah. And I'm going to talk about some things that I may not fully understand. So please bear with me for a
But we
second.
will.
So there's two main legal institutions in the US, from my understanding. There's the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of Pennsylvania and the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of New York. The Christian Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses are responsible for disseminating official policy. The Jehovah's Witnesses governing body has overall authority for the movement. And in 2019, it was composed of 8 men. And although it's not a fixed number, this number is like changed over the years. So
Yeah.
like as of that 2019, there was 8, but that could be varying depending on whatever the year is. Again, interesting that there's no like official like rule or policy around certain things, especially something as big as like who makes up
The
your
governing
governing body.
body.
Yeah,
I know.
that's a very interesting thing.
And
That'd be like if
it's
we were just like, oh, we could have two presidents or one president or
or whatever
yeah.
we feel like at the time. And like
Yeah.
it's like just men, huh?
Yeah. Women are not able to join the governing body and they're not eligible to hold office within the congregations.
Oh, believe.
Um, yeah, they're very much into like those gender roles, from my understanding. And as women are not permitted to teach or to hold authority over men. However, they
Hmm.
can teach children and they tend to have more like supporting roles, assisting with like congregational activities or accompanying men that are going door to door preaching.
Yeah, and see, that's when it starts to feel a little, and I'm not like judging at all of this. We're just observing this, and it's like, well, who benefits from that? It's just kind of creates this thing where it's keeping people down, keeping people in their lane, and not
Mm,
allowing people to branch out and limiting people. I don't know. It just feels very like as we move on as a society, doesn't it feel like it's kind of like even the Catholic Church has made adaptations like,
yeah.
okay, well, maybe we got to move this a little bit. Maybe babies don't go to hell, like things like that. Like, you know what I mean? So it's just
You know what
interesting
it
that
you know what it reminds me of?
what's that?
Gilead from
Oh, so you
Handmaid's Tale.
someone dipped into the new season.
I didn't. Oh yeah, I did. Actually, I watched the first episode last night. What am I saying? Yeah, yeah. But that's one of my favorite novels of all time too, The Handmaid's Tale. So, but that's like all the whole governing body is all men, and everybody has their roles. Not to say it's a complete comparison, but
Yeah, no, and it's just to point out some issues with this, which I
yeah,
mean, look, there is, and I think we should talk a little bit about like the belief system because I think this is
sure.
what people are curious about. So they do believe that there's an all-powerful, all-knowing, benevolent, so there's a good God, and these beliefs, you know, I don't know, it's interesting to me because they say that it's a direct interpretation of the Bible, and I think a couple things there. Once you're like taking the Bible word for word and not adjusting it for like allegory or this is a story or this is a metaphor, then you've crossed into that fundamentalist world. And when you're a fundamentalist, things get a little dicey, you know?
Yeah.
Also, how is it that another thing that's interesting about the Bible is this is something that people live and die for. And look, I'm very much into like religion in a sense. Like I think it's important in a lot of ways, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But people live their whole lives based on this, and like anything else, it can be interpreted very differently. Like, what's your thoughts on that? Like, you have this one text that one group feels this way, and another group feels completely different just using this one text. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it just shows how different everybody's perspectives can be, and how take you can take themes and turn them into pretty much whatever you want them to. You just have to hope that you're following somebody's interpretations that has the best intentions for the greater good.
And it translates to our world like quite a bit. So I just like, for an example. So I work at a hospital and I have this friend who works at like our sister hospital and she does exactly what I do at that hospital. And on one night I had someone come in and I had all the evidence that I put in and made a decision to discharge this person, send them back out. I felt like there was like a malingering situation, whatever. Um, that person leaves this hospital and goes to the sister hospital and gets admitted there based on the evidence that she sees. So it's like,
Hmm.
who's wrong? No one's really
Right.
wrong. It's just like, well, I interpret it one way and she interprets it another way. So I think it's like dangerous and like you can't like we can't assume as human beings that we have like say that this is God's word, quote unquote. And I'm not saying whatever, right? Whatever you believe. Like who are we to say that we've got it right? You know?
That's isn't that like the age old question?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it doesn't it when you look at history and you see how many wars, how many battles, how many people have lost their lives over religious
It's exactly what I'm saying.
war, it's insane, especially in modern day society where so many people have way less passion about religion and faith, I would say.
Hmm. Yeah, way less. For
Way
better or
less
for
than what
worse.
they, yeah, right, no, just saying that non-judgmentally, but it's just facts, to we can't even wrap our heads around a religious war in today's society.
No. No,
But
but I suppose in like some parts of the world maybe more than others. But you're right. And I remember being a kid thinking like, okay, so the Jewish people believe this, and Muslims believe this, and us Christians, Catholics, whatever, we believe this, and thinking to myself like, it seems pretty similar. Like, you know what I mean? Essentially, like it seems pretty close.
the funny thing is, if they just all step away from it, they're all believing in the same thing, which is all about love and acceptance,
Hmm.
and you
I
know
know.
but it's
And
those
just constantly missing the
details.
point.
It's
Yeah.
just the details they can't get over.
It's almost like that's the backdrop for everything human. So when you like as you describing that, I'm thinking of like politically, right? There's Republicans, there's Democrats, there's independents, there's all these people. Fundamentally, we all just want better lives for ourselves and to be tr like to do what we think is right and best for us all as a society. And just, if we could kind of just find where we agree and what, you know what I mean? It's instead we're always just picking apart what's wrong with each other instead of what's right with each other. And
Right,
it's
right,
kind of a
right.
bummer, you know? And to go on with this, right? So, like you said before, there is this rejection of the Trinity, which kind of, again, makes, people's hair raise up a little bit because we're so used to hearing this our entire life. So they believe that Jesus was the first creation of God. So before anything, there was Jesus. And he was also a man, though, who led a sinless life, not divine at all. Sacrificed on a stake, not a cross, to atone for the sins of humans. And with Easter and everything coming up, I'm sorry, they don't believe in the resurrection either. But to me, what we have in Jesus is, and I'm a huge Jesus fan for religion or not religion, just the story itself as the ultimate hero's journey. I really am. I love that idea of like, I think it's so powerful, that message. I know what could happen to me. I know that people are going to be treat me a certain way. I know all these things, but I'm going to do what I think is good no matter what.
Yeah,
And that's what it is to be a hero, I think. Um,
yeah,
yeah. So like
yeah,
Jesus, like do you have any thoughts
yeah.
on
Just to expand a little bit on this idea of Jesus, because I think this is a really big piece of Jehovah's Witnesses, and like what differentiates them from other religions. So, like you were saying about Jesus, but he was almost thought to be this ransom sacrifice as a
Mhm.
gift to humankind. So, the death of Jesus paid the ransom for human sin. Jehovah forgives those who have faith in the ransom sacrifice and are repentant and seek to imitate Jesus in their lives. So
So
rather
not
than,
that different.
no, because it's just about be good, don't sin,
Yeah.
live a
Yeah.
life of kindness and and love, things like that. Just do better, right?
Yeah, just do better. But then of course, like everything else that has like this great idea, like you'll see that they kind of get in the weeds with it too and limit people. But before we get into that, let's talk about the
Do
sacred
better,
text.
but not too much better.
Not, yeah, not too much better. And not better than I'm doing, and don't do what I say not to do.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I know what's good and you don't. That's
Right.
that's essentially when it gets dangerous. So the sacred text you mentioned a little bit is that the New World Translation of the Holy Scriptures. So just an additional Bible and just text from the Watchtower that's like this constantly moving publication arm that they use to put out to their community to kind of keep them in line of the way of thinking at the time, you know? Like
You know,
this is how we feel right now.
a thought just struck me as we were just talking about Jesus, and I just wanted to say it before I forget. The thing that made me reach out to you last week and say, "Hey, I know what our Easter episode should be. Let's try Jehovah's Witness," and you're like, "Yeah, definitely." I got an invitation in the mail to go to like a Jehovah's Witness celebration of Jesus for Easter,
Wow.
but they don't.
Should we go?
I That's what I was like. That would
And
be the
just
best research ever, right?
yeah, no,
But
it
they don't
would.
celebrate like the resurrection because they don't believe in the resurrection. They don't believe he ever resurrected. So I'm like confused by I got
Very confused by it.
I don't have that invitation anymore. I hate to admit, but I wish I kept it because I wish I read it a little more
And you're
thoroughly.
like, what's this about? Next time she shows up on a 10 speed in front of your house,
They
right?
do come to my house
Are you
currently.
okay? They've been to my house too. And I tend to have long conversations with them.
Do you?
Yeah, I just for like out of kindness, I guess. I just like hear them out
And
a
you
little
just
bit.
love talking too. So
Yeah, and then I'm like, yeah, all right, give me one of those watchtowers. I'll take a look at the thing.
2013 edition. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's the best one right there.
I love it.
Some great revisions made.
But it's funny that you say 2013 because I think it's very, very interesting that you talk about God's kingdom established in heaven in 1914. Doesn't that feel late? Like, don't what's been going on in heaven prior to this? Are you telling me Joan of Arc's not in heaven? Like,
So, well, no. So in oh yeah, I think we're gonna get to this. Um, I think we got to come back to this when we describe the Armageddon thing a little
yeah.
bit.
Well, I mean, God's plan is to eventually restore the earth to paradise, but like kind of like Eden was, but salvation, actual a place in heaven is only for about 144,000 people. And that's mentioned somewhere in the Bible, but you got to remember
Oh yeah,
in the
right.
Bible they write that number 144K, but how many people were on the planet? That's probably a huge percentage of the population back then. Now that's like no one is going to
Yeah,
heaven, right? To
right.
rule with Jesus.
So 1914 marks when what was it? Invisible Jesus came or
Rapture?
something,
Oh, that yes.
and
Yes.
and then the thought is that when he appears, there's going to be a period of 1,000 years that um there's going to be like this I don't know war or this leading up to the Armageddon. There's gonna be like 1,000 years, right?
Yep.
Um, and this will be like a time of paradise on earth, led by Christ as ruler in heaven. Um, I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly. All right, so Christ is going to lead like an army of angels to defeat Satan and the earth's rulers, because
Okay.
I guess at this point we're kind of acknowledging that the world is just filled with a bunch of sinners, right?
Right.
Is that kind of why we're having to, God has like, or Jehovah has decided that this is needed, this Armageddon?
Absolutely. Yes.
So during, um, oh yeah, and also not only Jehovah's Witnesses are going to be saved. So if you are a member or Jehovah's Witness, like that's great. Obviously, you're going to be saved when the Armageddon happens, but there will also be like a judgment day, and the non Jehovah's Witnesses, the people who are sleeping,
Hmm.
they will have an opportunity to accept Jehovah. And also, I heard that even some people from before 1914 will be accepted in it as well. I don't know what their criteria is. Maybe they just need to
Hopefully
also
quite a
accept.
bit because
Yeah.
that's a lot of people.
Yeah. So those who accept Jehovah but are but aren't part of that 144,000 will form the great crowd, and these people from all nations who will survive the great tribulation leading up to Armageddon, and they will live on the paradise on earth.
You know what I've
So
always had a problem with these kinds of
yeah.
things? So, okay, why would Jehovah or God need like an army of angels when like it feels like if he could just do it without any help at all?
Well,
Like,
Jehovah's not on earth fighting it,
no,
right?
I know, but if Jehovah wanted to just kind of be like skip all the army
You
stuff, let
could
me
just
just
say
kind of
snap, you're all gone.
snap, right? I've always thought that.
Let me take my
Snap
144,000 and extract
and
them
pluck them
and
out.
Yep.
and boom. But I also at the same time I've always enjoyed the idea of like angels going to war.
Mm.
It's pretty
I
badass.
think he just wants to see that.
Yeah.
Oh, I
And I
said
never,
he. I didn't mean to say he. Jehovah
wow.
just wants to see that.
Freudian slip,
Yes.
as you'll
So, so back to this 1,000 year thing. When the period starts, which I think they were trying to say was going to happen in 1914, but apparently that
Mhm.
didn't because that would have already we've already would have reached Armageddon. Maybe we did, and I just didn't know. Um, Judgment will be based on actions after resurrection rather than the past deeds. At the end of the 1,000 years, Jesus will hand all authority back to God. Then a final test will take place when Satan is released to mislead humankind, and those who fail will die along with Satan and his demons. And then I
Hmm.
had this thought. So it's like, I feel like they're kind of saying it's going to be this presence on earth that's going to mislead a bunch of people, and only the people that are able to kind of detect that they're being misled and will follow on the right path are going to be the ones that will be going
Yeah, like the
into.
diligent ones. They're like being diligent, and
Yeah.
that they're witnessing Jehovah's.
I
That's
was
what they're
like,
doing.
I was thinking about it. I was like, isn't that kind of happening right now?
I mean, pick any time in history, and isn't it kind of happening?
Yeah, well, I mean, we got some pretty outspoken people in society that might be leading people one way or another, and perhaps that is part of what our journey is right now. So maybe
And
there's
you know what's
something
funny though?
to
Like,
all of this.
look, and here's the thing, right? I just saw this thing. I don't even know if it's true or not, but like on social media scrolling a little bit, and there was like, oh, people are upset because Lady Gaga did some kind of like Satanistic presentation or like some kind of you know, imagery in one of her concerts at wherever people do like Coach, not Coachella, but somewhere. Anyways, like for people like Jehovah's Witness or other people who are very religious and maybe like, they might look at something like that and be like, this is it. Like, look, this is happening and people are just like accepting it and kind of pretending it's nothing. And it must be frustrating to see stuff like that, right? Because
Hmm.
you do see stuff like that on TV and you kind of just like, oh, that's like, I don't know, art or like that's just them being, I don't know, like provocative, whatever. But there is the imagery's there for sure if you're looking for it, don't you think?
It's been well, yeah, because I was watching something. I was watching this thing about like Mandela effect a while ago, and they were trying to give an explanation as to why it exists, and they're trying to talk about these portals, and then somehow they got on the topic of like Travis Scott having a lot of devil imagery in at his shows and in his music, and then they brought up how Monster Energy drink, their symbol is literally six six
Yeah.
six, the devil, right?
And it's like,
It's
why?
all, and then they were bringing up a ton of other examples, and it kind of blew me away. I did not realize how prevalent Satan and the devil is in our current day.
And like, is that
It's
their point
everywhere.
they're trying to make? Like, it's like hiding right in plain sight. And are we being super conspiratorial right now? Or,
It's
like,
kind of
I don't,
fun though being super
I
conspiratorial
know
in
it
things
is,
like this
right?
because it's like you almost feel like, am I the only one seeing this?
I remember being a kid and like my aunt's talking about Procter and Gamble, like that whole company, like Crest and everything, and they said that they had like satanic imagery like on a toothpaste. And I remember like being my little Catholic guilt and just being like, I can't use Crest
Yeah.
now, I
Oh,
guess.
think back to like when we did our Satanic Panic episode. I think we referenced how some album, was it Ozzy or was it Black Sabbath? If you listen to it backwards, the vinyl backwards, it was some kind of satanic chant or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I do remember that. Wow, that was a great episode actually.
That was fun. And yeah, today though, what was it? Lil Nas X had that
Yep,
very
totally.
provocative video where he and the devil are like he's lap dancing the devil, and then he came out with, I think, with a pair of shoes that had his blood in in them or something. Or yeah, I think that was him, or maybe it was Kanye. Somebody
I,
had blood
I
in a
know, and
vial in their shoes.
you gotta like be like, wow, these like super religious people must be like, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. How is not everyone seeing this? Like, how are they not seeing that this is kind of walking around the earth with us?
But here's the other really interesting part, which we'll get to later to when we get into the pop culture stuff. So many individuals, and none that we actually mentioned that I know of, but possibly, who knows, actually grew up as Jehovah's Witness in Jehovah's Witness families. It's way
Yeah,
more prevalent than I ever knew. And wait till we get to pop culture and I name some names. You're gonna be floored,
I'm gonna be
Greg.
blown away.
Or you'll be like, I have no idea who those people are you just said.
Okay.
We'll see.
All right.
All right. So a couple of interesting things. Dates. There's some important dates within Jehovah's Witnesses. Um, so let's see. The first one, so Russell, who we talked about earlier, he taught that Christ had invisibly returned to Earth in 1874 and then would visibly return in 1878. But then that got revised to 1914 when it didn't actually happen, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
A very Heaven's Gate moment
yeah, right there.
when the ship didn't come.
Wait, mistake, my mistake.
Misinterpretation. It happens.
1914 is what I meant to say. Random year, too, by the way. 1914 marks the moment when Jesus began to rule the kingdom of God in heaven, and it remains an important date in the movement as it is believed to be to mark the start of the end times.
Which is start. It's also the start of World War One, ironically.
Oh, wow. Well, that maybe explains something of why that probably has a lot to do with it. That'd be
Yeah.
interesting to know that. But if it's 1,000 years from 1914, then now what?
Wait, how many would that be? Would that be?
2014,
Wait, isn't that 100 years?
2014.
Isn't that 100 years?
Oh yeah. Wait, so we're talking about
It's gonna be a while.
way. Oh, we're not going to see it.
No, 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 not
Okay.
unless you got another like 900 years in you.
Oh, geez, I do. I do. I'm just not going to be actually like alive for them. So members alive in 1914 expected to be the generation that would witness the Armageddon. This was reiterated in 1984 Watchtower article 1914, the generation that will not pass away. However, in 1995, when they all passed away, the governing body revised the generation doctrine, and Jehovah's Witnesses believe Armageddon will occur within the lifetimes of those whose lives overlap with the 1914 generation. So
We have to
basically,
revise that again soon.
yeah. Yeah. 1974 was another significant date, interpreted as the start of the seventh millennium. Many witnesses expected this date to mark the start of Christ's reign. Since 1975, no new dates have been set by Jehovah's Witnesses. They decided that's a terrible idea to set
Yeah, that's a
dates.
bad. Yeah, unless you want to throw them out, like maybe give yourself a few hundred years.
Yeah, just generalize it.
Yeah,
Why you got
save
to put
yourself the
out a real
embarrassment.
date, you know?
Very strange. So the practicing the religion is actually kind of interesting. So, you know, the people door to door is a huge part of this. This is their primary duty, actually, as Jehovah's Witnesses. This is like a condition of being a Jehovah's Witness. This isn't like a communication arm that they have. This is what everyone is encouraged to do. Unless you're in the top nine there, then you don't really have to mess with that too much. Bible study, still very important. They do this at places called Kingdom Halls.
Mm,
And these places are not decorated all nice and with the iconography and the statues of saints like a church. They're very bland and I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a theme here, right? Um, they do celebrate the Lord's evening meal, which is a big holiday for them,
right.
which is just the Last Supper with unleavened bread and wine. But only a select number of members get to do this because of like they're taking it like in honor of the 144,000. So it does create this hierarchy within the religion itself where it's like there's people who are above other people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, it is like a council or something. So the controversial stuff that we kind of like to think about are, for one thing, I found this interesting, no blood transfusions. So they cannot consume blood, so they take it to the next level and they're like, all right, so if someone's dying, no blood transfusing. That's, I don't
Yeah.
know. If your kid's dying, I don't know. It's like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna have to get out of the religion, right? So no military service or voting, no saluting the flag or pledge allegiance because they consider that idolatry. It's like looking up to something that's higher than God. And they don't want to vote or because they're citizens of God's kingdom. I mean,
Mm,
that's what's going on since like 1914 or whatever. That's where that's their allegiance. And no worldly activity either because they're a little bit above that. So no birthdays, no Christmas or Easter or Halloween, of course. No Valentine's Day, any of it because it all has pagan origins. We've talked about that in the
yeah.
past. And there's also like with similar with Mormons, there's a lot of failing to report sexual abuse within the cult because they like to kind of handle everything from within.
Mm,
But if you have a problem with what's been like the elders are doing, they can kind of just get you the hell out of there. It's very authoritative. It's very coercive. So no participating in the outside world, and the people who do disagree are completely shunned and disconnected from this group, which is their safety net, it's their family, it's all their connections, like, to jobs, to money, and to help. Um, and they also discourage independent thought, which is something that's kind of wild to discourage, Like everything, like independent thought, they say is like the devil's work. And that's very
yeah.
strange, right?
Yeah.
And those agree. There's a name for the people that disagree, and they're called apostates, and they're considered mentally diseased. So yeah, like one of the former leaders, Ray Franz, said that the governing body demands conformity, and that should override all personal conscience. That is intense, right?
Yeah.
So uniformity, no individuality, no new ideas, and don't threaten the official doctrine. So just stay in your lane, kind of like old world, feels very like medieval kind of religion in a sense, doesn't it?
Right. Yep. So there's arguments that there's some reminiscence of like being a cult, right? Like this
Yeah.
potentially seems like that probably referred to less as a cult than Scientology, I would say, but still it's referenced enough where it's a thing that, can be on people's minds. They deny it. Jehovah's Witnesses do not say they are a cult. Some of the things that may challenge them on that is, well, first off, the teachings that contradict or reinterpret the Bible. Most
Mhm.
cults have that as a major element, right? There's their own preachings taken from some main source, but different, right? And
Mhm.
that's a big part of what this is all about. I mean, it's all about taking those teachings, reinterpreting them, and kind of coming up with their own discipline. Um, the door-to-door preaching and recruitment I felt is super similar to a lot of what we've seen. We've talked about that with other cults where you give people responsibility and then they
And then
feel more invested
yep.
and they become experts in the material, which helps them get excited and want, and that makes them better salesmen too, right? So sometimes that's a big way to draw people in. Strict rules or policies that the group has to adhere to, I think, would be another one. Judgment is the role of the group leaders. So, like you said, with like the, failure to report, or if there's like an issue, the group leaders kind of take care of it, I guess you would say. And then the end days and the group members expecting to be like salvaged, obviously,
Yeah, like they're like isolated, different from like that people that preying on that idea that like no one can understand this. We are special. We're
yeah,
different. People who
yeah,
seek answers. Also, I think that like typically with a cult, there's a charismatic leader, but what the Jehovah's Witnesses have managed to do is create like almost like a board that can be selected from and keep power within that, where they do have this like sort of vague, like not ominous, but like I don't know, close to God. This person, this group of people are special. They have a special connection with God. They're one of the 144,000. It's kind of like made to feel that way, that they
yeah.
know better than you, and you better listen. And if you do, your soul will be saved. So it is culty in a sense, but I don't know. I mean, I would love to get the take of, we're open to what people think about it.
Yeah, I definitely see those arguments, but also I also see that they're just arguments.
Of
They're,
course, yeah.
there's no factual information about them being a cult because as far as we know, that's not the case, and this has been around for quite some time. I do have some experience with, some anecdotal stories of people who were former members and feeling like it
Totally.
was very restrictive and isolating and almost having that idea that they felt like they were a part of a cult when they were practicing. But again, it's
What about the Amish? I mean, it's similar, right? Where
right.
it's like that is that a
Exactly.
cult? Not really, because you can get out, but it's difficult and
Sure.
you will be shunned and life will be you know, you'll
Which you
have your
can
stigma.
hear.
Yeah.
You can be
Yeah.
shunned. You are shunned for various things, right?
Absolutely. It's similar that way.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, so you're kind of undecided.
I think that, you know, for some people, it could be a perfectly reasonable,
Yeah.
useful, happy way of life. But if say you like you're somebody whose identity, like maybe your sexuality or, you know, maybe your view of the world or your values don't align, then you can feel very alone and almost like it can create sort of neurosis or mental illness in a way because it's like you have to deny your own existence, your own identity to conform to this thing that doesn't really fit who you are.
Hmm.
It's a tough thing.
Absolutely. And especially if your family is a part of this and
Yep.
they have those strong beliefs and you don't. I mean, but it's like that with every religion pretty
It
much
is.
where,
It is.
it's more involved. Um,
What about
pop,
you? Like, what do you think? Cult? No cult?
I don't for
Doesn't feel
similar, I'm
culty,
kind of in
but
the same boat as
yeah,
you. I think that it's a matter of fit. It's a matter of person's viewpoints and values. And I do think that it's tough when you're raised in this because you're almost molded into it to some extent. But then obviously there are some people that are, as they become an adult, they kind of formulate their own opinions and they make choices to leave. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I don't love some of the values and some of the structure of it, but that message of just kind of imitating Jesus, the life of Jesus and his ways is a
could be
valuable
worse.
message.
Yeah,
Yeah.
could be
Yeah.
worse.
Um, Pop culture. So I mentioned, one pop culture thing was that A Perfect World with Kevin Costner. That's, I think, a late 80s, early 90s movie. I think it's early 90s. Uh, but I had to look up some celebrities and I was blown away. The first one I saw was the Notorious B.I.G., aka Biggie Smalls, grew up Jehovah's Witness because his mom was a devout Jehovah's Witness.
Wow.
That one blew me away.
That
He, as far as I know, was not practicing.
it didn't
Ja
seem like it.
Rule,
Yeah.
legendary Ja Rule. He left though because his mother was actually disfellowshipped, which I guess
Ah,
is their version of being banished, right?
yeah.
Childish Gambino, aka Donald Glover, was raised as Jehovah's Witness, but he now identifies as atheist. And X to the Z Exhibit was
Wow.
raised Jehovah's Witness as well. A lot of these people I'm going to say, that I'm going to mention, aren't currently practicing though, which is interesting. So a lot of them are raised in Jehovah's Witness family.
Exhibit X to the Z.
X to the
Pimp my
Z,
ride.
before he did Pimp My Ride, was doing that. Yep. Prince converted to Jehovah's Witness.
Hmm.
I had two conflicting dates, either 2001 or 2003, but I thought that was interesting.
Did he stick around? Like
I
even to
believe he was practicing up until his death, and I believe
wow.
he converted after his mother's passing. So something with that. That's
Meaning searching
interesting.
for meaning, yeah.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
The singer Selena, rest in peace, was a
Rest in
Jehovah's
peace.
Witness. Dwight D. Eisenhower was raised Jehovah's Witness, but left as an adult. Some athletes I got in the NBA, probably a bunch of people you're not familiar with, Greg, but Darren Collison and Danny Granger, who both just happened to be on the Indiana Pacers. Uh, AC Green, former basketball player, also known for being like a virgin up until his 40s.
Wow.
Detlef Schrempf, also
Hmm.
former NBA player from Seattle Supersonics.
Hopefully they
Uh,
don't put that in their sales pitch.
he did an interview. It was like a big thing that he was a virgin for so long. That was
Hmm.
interesting. Yeah. Um, Serena Williams still, what I think her and Venus were raised as Jehovah's Witnesses, but Serena still
Stuck around.
acknowledges some of the faith and practices. I don't know if she's like full fledged Jehovah's Witness, but still has some of those values. The Wayans brothers, the whole family grew up Jehovah's Witness. The Jacksons, the whole Jackson family grew up Jehovah's Witness, but many left the religion as they became adults. Like Janet Jackson's no longer practicing, as many of them, the rest of them are not. Supermodel Naomi Campbell also was raised Jehovah's Witness, but left. And yeah,
I, yeah, no, I've had like people who I've talked to who have left for various reasons. One being like homosexuality. We didn't talk too much about that, but they're taught to not hate homosexuality, but also taught that it's not congruent with the lifestyle. So if
Okay.
that is how you were born, it's not okay to be how you were born, and that makes things tough.
Yeah.
So that's like one thing there, and then like say like that can cause like kind of a ripple effect where you're close with this person or you see this and it's like, well, I have to decide, am I gonna be who I am or do I want to like lose my family over this? Are they gonna see me? Like it can be really tough that way. Um, it really can.
That is such like a familiar story though
Yeah,
for so many
a lot of
different
religions,
religions,
right?
right?
Religion in
I've
general.
Yeah, it really does, suck to hear that how often as we do about people feeling like their identity, the way that they identify is not accepted in the way that they were, brought up.
It's a tough situation, tough scenario.
Yeah. So that's a
And it's
difficult
and
one.
it's not just that. It's like and then other people that I've talked to have had like similar situations in that they just don't agree with the lifestyle. Like and maybe they look at Christmas or they look at some like the way people and they're like, I don't see a problem. That seems like a beautiful, fun time. Like I want to jump into that. But like they can't jump into it alone. And it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I always wondered if they felt like missing out on something, you know?
Like the Amish do, and they do Rumspringa and they go nuts, right?
They just go
Yeah.
nuts.
Nuts.
Wild.
Or do you not miss it because you never experience it and you don't really know it?
But you see it, don't you?
You do see
Especially
it.
in school. So
It
I mean, I
yeah.
don't know. I don't know. Maybe you get the sense too of like, well, they're weak. They have to indulge in this stuff. Like we're doing this for a reason. We're doing something hard so that we can, it's not that's not the worst message in the world. Do something hard now that so we can benefit later. It's actually a really good message, to be honest. But
Oh my God, that message rocks.
it's a great message. Yeah, yeah.
Did you
We
just
don't show up at
convert?
work, Dave, because we want to work. We show up at work because like hopefully the reaps rewards in the future.
Yeah.
So like doing, you know, seeking what's good, not seeking pleasure. That's a good message. That's a nice message.
Everybody's
Uh,
always seeking pleasure these days, and that's a big issue.
it's a huge issue. That's a huge issue. Or comfort or ease. Like that's
Hmm.
a
Nobody wants to
huge
do
problem.
anything hard, and everybody wants to avoid instant gratification. So many themes here.
Dave, you're preaching to the choir. It's like one of the biggest problems.
Yeah.
I mean, really is. But I digress. You know how we feel about the whole thing. Avoidance. We've had our way.
Yeah.
We've had our words with
We've had
avoid.
our way with it. I don't know what that means, but
You know,
but it's
uh,
provocative.
that sounds provocative. Yeah,
So, all right, Jehovah's Witness
Jehovah's
Easter
Witness.
episode.
Hmm.
The Easter episode that shouldn't have been because
That's
they
right.
don't believe in
Hmm.
Easter, but it makes it all
It,
the more appropriate, right?
it really does. And Dave, happy Easter.
Happy Easter. You know what's weird? So most holidays we've done kind of a fun little holiday episode about it, and then we've done some like offshoots.
Sure.
Easter we have not.
I wonder why that is.
Last year I think we did the what is it? The Church of Latter-day Saints, the fundamentalists cult, right? Was that last Easter?
Oh, okay. So like, you're saying we never addressed the pagan origins.
Yeah. So next
Well,
year, maybe.
yeah, maybe next year. And it's fun. Like, I'll give a book recommendation. Have you ever read American Gods by Neil Gaiman?
No.
Really good, really fun kind of take on like old gods, pagan gods, versus like the new gods of today, like technology and drugs and stuff like that. It's like actually really, really cool. How the old gods are dying and no one pays
Okay.
attention to them anymore. Really cool.
All right. You
Um,
got a book recommendation from Greg, everyone.
there you go. It's an
Congrats
old
to you.
one too. Everyone's gonna be like, yeah, we heard of it.
No, 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 Greg. No, no.
I liked it. So,
So yeah, that wraps up Jehovah's. That wraps up Easter episode for us. We got some cool interactions this week. I want to thank people. We also got some Not great interactions this week. I guess we should
Yeah,
just say it, dude. We're honest. We try to be honest about everything.
I do. You know what? It's funny that you say that. I will say something because that we've got a sort
Should I
of
read it so people
yeah, a
know
diss
what it
track on the
is?
ACT episode.
Yeah, a diss track. We got a
Yeah.
bad review, and we've read every good review, and damn it, we should also read the bad one because we are not fake phonies.
No, not funny balonies.
And the thing to remember is here I am defending us like we need to. I mean, everybody knows we're doing
It's the guide to
over
nothing. It's in the
yeah,
title.
we're doing overviews. We're not specialists in most stuff that we're doing episodes on. I'm not gonna say we're not specialists in everything because obviously we are professionals in our work, and we have understanding of a lot of the things that we're talking about at times, not always. Like today's episode, we had
Yeah,
no
it's
understanding.
just fun. Like, are you interested in anything like that? Yeah,
Right.
like
We
it's just
do our research to the best of our ability in the time frames that we have, and sometimes it's not always perfect. And I do appreciate when people give feedback like, oh, you missed a few things. I actually would love for people to actually tell us the things that we missed because I want to know for my own like knowledge.
yeah.
Um, but anyways, we got this review from Sarah and Jay, and we got 2 stars. So not one, which is nice. Thank you for at least giving us two. And the title was frustrating. And it says, I listened to the episode on ACT. That was that acceptance commitment therapy episode. The host seemed like nice, well meaning guys. Thank you.
Okay.
But they were pretty uninformed, imprecise, and incoherent. Now that's just hurtful.
And
That's
wrong.
just hurtful.
Yeah.
That was a little much, but then the rest goes on, and that probably appropriate. They compared ACT and CBT, but didn't seem to know that many consider ACT to be under the CBT umbrella. We do. We were just
We
saying,
do, and we definitely mentioned that. And not only that, we talked about how ACT is more about values-based action,
yeah,
and we
we were
talked
just kind of
about
describing
yeah.
the differences. Totally. They also went on for a while about how some terms in ACT are too academic, technical, and etc. Not even our original thought. That is generally something that has been said by numerous
Well,
individuals.
let's say
We do agree.
it was said by David Burns, who was taught by Beck, who is the father of CBT. So, yes, that is a genuine criticism from someone who I look up as like probably one of the premier psychologists alive today. So,
So they said, I found this very frustrating. The people developing therapy modalities shouldn't have to talk in simplified language amongst each other. Well, in our opinions, it is very much helpful if they can simplify it so
mhm.
that we can better inform individuals that we work with. And some people want to learn about this stuff, and I can't share information with them. I can't say, go read this book
Yeah.
if it's something that's not really
Is Sarah Ann
understood.
a monk from the Middle Ages who
Greg,
refuses to
stop.
do the mass in
Stop.
anything other than Latin so that people can understand what God's trying to tell them? Like, what?
The
Okay.
jargon serves a purpose, she says. I don't plan on listening to any other episodes. So you're not going to hear this. So that's fine.
Good.
I happen to have already learned about this topic, so I could spot a lot of the problems. Well, then
Oh,
you probably
Jesus
shouldn't have
Christ.
listened to an overview episode from A Guide to Nothing.
Mm.
Um, if it's something new to me, I wouldn't be able to trust that they weren't twisting information as they tried to condense it. If it was new to you, then you wouldn't have spotted all those things in just all honesty, right?
Yeah,
So
I know.
you
The
but you
things
know
that I'd
what?
love to know that were coming right out of Stephen Hayes's book, but whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess the
I
guy
do
who,
I do think that we spent most of that episode saying how much we appreciated ACT and how we've been actually utilizing it way more in our work. And actually every week since then, I think we've mentioned to our each other and our colleagues more and more about ACT. And I know there's a way more to ACT than we were even able
of
to get
course.
into. There's way more to CBT than we got into in our CBT episode. There's more to DBT. There's so much more to all of this stuff. This is an introduction. Sometimes we'll do a second episode about something, kind of delving into it a little bit more, but we can only get to so much within like the hour and 15 minutes that these episodes are. I am sorry to Sarah Ann that episode didn't hit the mark for you. I hear your concerns. I'm sure there was things that we said that we might have, maybe we were off based on something, or we
Sure, why
missed
not?
we missed the mark on something, or we missed some information.
Well,
Totally
we
could happen.
sort of plan for that, not purposefully, but like we know that.
Yeah, it's par for the course.
Yeah.
We just did an episode about Jehovah's Witness, and I guarantee you we missed
You think I'm an expert on
quite a
that?
bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
quite a bit. And it's not the first time I heard that. Somebody else messaged us on like Spotify once. I can't remember if it was about ACT or another one, and they said something about, oh, there were some things that weren't mentioned in here, or some things were like left out, but for the most part it was a good episode. So that's fine. Sarah
Hmm.
Ann, it just wasn't for you.
Yeah, and we're a small podcast, so like maybe if we love the criticism, so you can hit us with the criticism and just still give 5 stars. We'll read it.
No, no. The thing is, to obviously we are sensitive. So when we get criticism, we dwell on it for a little bit. It's for me, honestly, that one did sting a little bit, but if
Yeah.
this was like 3 years ago, I would have taken it way harder than I took it now. Now it's like it was just a negative thought I had for a few hours following it, and then I kind of got over it because I know it's accurate. There's definitely truth to what she
Of
said. There's
course.
parts of
Yeah.
what she said we were kind of like, all right, that's not necessary. But I don't want to like deter other people from giving negative feedback, because if you have it, please do. That's fine. I really, we want to hear the truth. Just also don't be mean.
I know. Yeah,
Don't
because
be
it's like
incoherent. That's the part that got me. I'm like, what? We don't even sound like people. We don't even people can't
you know
even
what
understand
incoherent
what we're
means?
saying.
Yeah. Like you put it on and you're like, I don't even know are these words?
What?
I didn't.
And how do you? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, so that was our negative feedback, and it is what it is.
Is what it is.
Anyways,
Winnable.
for anyone who's listening and hasn't given feedback yet, please do so. We'd love to
Yeah.
hear what you, especially if it's good, because we probably could use it this week.
Definitely.
Um, but if not, then don't forget, we got our Patreon going on. We got the bonus episodes. We already got 3 out now. Um, we actually got our boy Tim on Patreon made a suggestion for us to do something we've never done and talk politics.
Oh my
He
God.
wants to hear us talk politics on there. He feels like it would be really helpful. And I'm thinking, I don't want to put it on just for anybody. So I'm thinking we should do a bonus episode just for the Patreon listeners and viewers, because it is video, and do something along the lines of his political themes that he wanted to hear
Hit
us
it.
discuss. And then that way it's like, dude, you asked for this, so it's
Yep.
all yours, Tim. But yeah, I maybe we can develop something for that. But yeah, if you go on Patreon and you join the tier, you're gonna get bonus episodes. We're also thinking at some point we're gonna probably take some of our back catalog down and make it just for Patreon or Apple subscribe members, because we have like three, so many 3 years of episodes. So there's so many. Gonna probably make that something that's a little more exclusive as another perk, and then other things down the road. So Apple subscribe, Patreon, definitely check those out. And yeah, we'll be back next week. So everybody have a great night.
Have a great night.
See you later. Bye.